I'm Bryan McNee, Senior Bond Analyst with MBS Authority. Today is July 29th, and I'm reporting for MPA TV. Here is your weekly MBS review. Of course, why are we reviewing mortgage-backed securities? Because mortgage-backed securities are the only thing that control 30-year fixed rates for conventional government loans. Okay, so let's take a look at what happened last week. Mortgage-backed securities lost 49 basis points, which caused 30-year fixed rates to rise on a week-over-week basis. Prior to that, for the 2 weeks prior to that, mortgage-backed securities had at least 100 basis points gain each week. Let's take a look. As mortgage-backed security prices go upward, mortgage rates get better. And as mortgage-backed security pricing gets worse, mortgage rates get worse. So, last week we lost 49 basis points and pricing got worse. Let's take a look at why. We had a couple reasons. First of all, after a couple hundred basis points rally, and given the volatility of the bond market, a lot of traders simply took some profits off the table, which provided downward pressure when everybody's selling on mortgage-backed security prices. But we also had some better than expected economic data, and positive economic news usually does pressure long-term bonds. Existing home sales had a slight miss on a month-over-month basis, but a year-over-year was pretty robust. New home sales hit a 5-year high. That was pretty good as well. But durable good orders, the market was expecting a reading of 0.5. It came in over 4%. That's a blockbuster beat. And that put pressure on mortgage-backed securities. Initial jobless claims stayed below 350. That was positive. And then you had on Friday the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index, and that was revised upward from 84.1 to 85.1. So that was better than expected to provide downward pressure on mortgage-backed securities. Now let's take a look at this week. What a blockbuster week we have. Of course, it's all about Friday and the non-farm payroll. We'll talk about why non-farm payrolls are so important. But obviously the key this week is going to be Wednesday. First, we have ADP private payroll. People will be looking at that data and using it to bet ahead of Friday's non-farm payroll report. Then we have GDP. GDP, of course, very important, but probably not as big of a market mover as it normally would be because it's older data and we have new data out there. We know which way the economy is going. We don't need to look backwards right now. What's really key on Wednesday is going to be the Federal Open Market Committee, the FOMC. They're meeting. They're going to discuss a couple things, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Let's get through this calendar. Thursday, initial jobless claims, another glimpse into what's going on with the employment picture. ISM manufacturing also very important, but Friday, non-farm payrolls. You also get unemployment, but the unemployment rate really isn't as important as the non-farm payroll. Traders focus on non-farm payroll, and if you get a stronger than expected non-farm payroll report, mortgage-backed securities will sell off. In fact, they have. The last 3 times that report hit, mortgage-backed securities sold off in a big way, which meant 30-year fixed rates shot up on Friday. So we need to be prepared for that. Let's talk about the Fed and Ben Bernanke. What's going to happen on Wednesday? Well, they're going to do 2 things. They're going to discuss their interest rate policy and their policy statement. Their interest rate policy isn't going to change. Their interest rate policy is the federal fund rate, which is the only rate that they directly control, is going to stay at close to 0 for as long as the eye can see. They're not going to change that, and they've said that over and over again. But the other part of that is, what's their outlook? What's their statement going forward? When they keep saying they're not going to touch interest rates, please don't get confused with interest rates that they control versus interest rates that are mortgages. They are 2 different animals. How do they control mortgage rates? Well, they control mortgage rates via bond purchases, not by setting the interest rate. And bond purchases are the big ticket here. They purchase $85 billion a month, currently a combination of treasuries and mortgage-backed securities. And the market wants to know when they'll start tapering that amount, because sooner or later they'll have to, and they should. Yes, as one of the largest purchasers, if not the largest purchaser of mortgage-backed security, once they start pulling back and purchasing less of them, then that means less artificial demand. And if you go back to your Econ 101 class, you'll remember when there's smaller demand, then the prices drop, right? And when the prices drop on mortgage-backed securities, interest rates go up. And so that's the way that they control mortgage rates. And they've never said that they're going to keep those interest rates compressed for a long period of time. They've said over and over again that they will, and they are in favor of, pulling back on the amount of purchases of all bonds, provided the economic data supported it. And traders widely view employment as the primary way that, or statistic that the Fed will look at prior to starting to taper. And so that's why Friday's non-farm payroll report is so important. Yes, after the Fed meeting on Wednesday, you could have a lot of volatility. In fact, the last Fed 2 meetings, mortgage-backed securities sold off in a major way. Okay, because essentially what they said is, yeah, we're in favor of tapering. It's not coming soon. It's coming when we feel it's appropriate. And that got the market a little jittery because traders try to front run the Fed, and in the trader's mind, they're thinking, well, we see the economic data too, and we think it's going to force you to move sooner rather than later. The market's expecting them to start doing some pullback in September. So anything that they say that solidifies that would cause mortgage-backed securities to sell off. Anything that they say Wednesday that seems like it would prolong their tapering, then mortgage-backed securities will rally and you'll get some better rates because of it. But then comes Friday. Friday's non-farm payroll will trump what the Fed says on Wednesday. If the Fed says they're going to wait a little longer, but then you get a really strong non-farm payroll report, well, it doesn't matter what the Fed did Wednesday, mortgage-backed securities will sell off dramatically. Conversely, if we get a really weak non-farm payroll report, then you'll see mortgage-backed securities rally and you'll get some good rates. So you can see we have a very volatile week this week and you need to be on our toes. Make sure you're watching live data. For example, on our site, we've got live data for you and we'll keep you ahead of any rate repricing. Have a fantastic week.